The Black Cat. I do not expect you to believe the wild story I am about to write. I will be mad to expect you to believe it. Even my reason tells me it is difficult to believe. Yet I am not mad, and I am not dreaming, but to die peacefully, I must tell my story. When I was here, I was very keen, peaceful, and full of love. I was very fond of animals, and my parents, knowing this, let me have many pets. I spent most of my time with my pets and was always happiness when I was with them. This love of animals stayed with me as an adult. Being with animals remained my greatest pleasure. I married young, and my wife shared my love for animals. We had many pets: birds, goldfish, a fine dog, rabbits, a small monkey, and a cat. The cat was a large, beautiful animal, entirely black and very wise. In fact, the black cat was so clever that my wife used to loudly remind me of the old belief that all black cats are witches in disguise. Pluto, that was the cat's name, was my favorite pet. I was the only one who fed him. He always followed me around the house. It was difficult to stop him following me in the street. My friendship with this cat lasted happily for several years. Then I began to have one weakness that altered my whole character. I started drinking day by day. I became more selfish and unpleasant. I took no notice of anybody else's feelings. I started to swear at my wife. In the end, I even started to hit her. My pets, of course, also suffered from my bad temper. I not only took no notice of them, but I also treated them very badly. The rabbit, the monkey, and even the dog sheriff thought no fault of their own. Pluto thought I'm still loved and ought to live alone, but my drinking grew worse and worse until even Pluto became too sure from my uncomfortable temper. I do something terrible. One night, I come home very drunk. I had been drinking gin all day. I was in a very bad temper. For some reason, Pluto made me angry. I thought he was trying to avoid me. I said to him he must have been afraid of my violence and he struggled to get away. In, in doing so, he scratched my hand. I knew that he had not meant to harm me, but I no longer had control of my brain. I was terribly angry. I was determined to punish that poor innocent cat. In a rage, I took a small knife out, out of my pocket. I held the cat by the throat and cut one of its eyes out. The next morning, I woke up more sober, and I remembered my terrible crime. For a short time, I was sorry for what I had done, but the feeling did not last long. I was soon drinking again. I buried my memories in the gin. In the meantime, the cat slowly recovered. There was still a terrible scar where his other eye should have been, but he no longer seemed to suffer pain from the wound. He went about the house as usual, but as soon as he heard me coming, he would run away in fear. At first, I was upset by his be- behavior because I remember how much Pluto had once loved me. But soon, his obvious dislike from me began to make me angry. In the end, I could not bear it. One morning, I, I got poor Pluto, and then I put a rope around his neck and hung him from the branch of a tree. I hunched the poor creature until he was dead. My house burned down on the night of day on which I had done this terrible thing. I was woke from my sleep by the loud voices of people shouting that the house was burning. My wife and I and the servant only just escaped in time. In the whole house was destroyed. There was nothing left. I don't know if there was any real connection between the terrible thing I had done on the burning of my house, but strange things were beginning to happen. The day after the fire, I went back to look at the ruins of my home. All the ways, except one, had fallen. Strangely, it was my bedroom wall. When I got there, a large crowd was standing round this one remaining wall. I could hear people saying, strange, odd. I wondered what it was they were looking at. I went up to the wall and saw a stud drawn on the wall, the shape of a hook cat. It was quite clear. There was a rope around the animal's neck. When I said this, I was terrified and amazed. For months, I could not forget that strange sight. I even began to feel sorry that I had killed Pluto. I began to cheer for another cat like him to take his place. I found a new pet. One night, when I was sitting in a restaurant, I saw a black object. I had been drinking a lot and did not at first realize what I was looking at. Then I realized it was a black cat. It was very big, just as big as Pluto, and almost the same. There was only one difference. Pluto had been completely black. This cat had a white patch on his chest. I got up and went to the cat. When I touched him, he was very friendly and seemed to like me stroking him. I was sure that this was the animal that I wanted to have instead of Pluto. I asked the owner of the place if I could buy the cat from him, but he told me that the cat did not belong to him and he had never seen it before. I continued to stroke the cat, and when I decided to go home, the animal started to follow me. It followed me all the way home. It immediately became a great favorite with my wife. As for myself, I soon began to dislike my new pet. I don't know why, for the cat obviously loved me. I began to hate that animal. At first, I tried to avoid seeing it. I was ashamed of what I had done to Pluto, and I did not want to do the same thing to this cat. There was one thing that added to my dislike of the animal. The morning after I brought it home, I saw that it only had one eye. The more I grew to hate this cat, the more it seemed to love me. It followed me everywhere. If I sat down, it would sit underneath my chair or jump up onto my lap. If I got up to walk, it would get between my feet and nearly trip me up. It would climb off my clothes until it reached my arms and I would have to hold it. The cat began to terrify me. I don't know why, for it was only a cat. I became more and more bad tempered and more difficult to live with. My poor incomplaining wife suffers so much. I murdered my wife. One day, we both went down of the cellar for some reason. The cat followed us both. It got between my feet and nearly made me trip down the steep stairs. I was carrying an axe in my hand, and I was so angry with the cat that I raised the axe with the intention of hitting the poor animal. My wife raised her hand to stop me doing such a terrible thing. My rage at once directed itself at her instead of the cat. Without thinking, I freed myself from her hold and buried the axe in her head. She fell, she fell dead in my feet with, without making a sound. I had murdered my wife. Coldly and coldly, I decided that I must hide the body. I knew that I could not remove it from the house without the reach of being seen by the neighbors. Many ideas passed through my mind. At one period, I thought of cutting the body into pieces and burning it. Then I decided to dig a grave of the floor of the cellar and bury the body. I thought of baking the body in a pot and then getting someone to take it from the house. Finally, I decided on what I thought was the best idea. I decided to bury my wife inside one of the cellar walls. The cellar was a very good place to do this terrible thing. The walls were quite soft because of the damp air, and most importantly, in one place a chimney had been covered over and the wall made smooth and flat so as to look like the rest of the cellar. I was sure that I could easily remove the bricks from in front of the old fireplace, put my wife inside, and then put the whole thing together again so that no one could tell what had happened. It is exactly as I did planned. When I had finished, I feel satisfied that no one will know what I had done. The wall looked the same as the others. Once I had done that, I decided to look from the animal that had caused the crime to happen. I had decided to kill it too, but I could not find it anywhere. 3 days passed and still the cat did not reappear. It was a lovely feeling to be rid of that cat. The clue of my wife's murder did not bother me at all. Some neighbors asked me where she was, but I easily made up some story that satisfies their curiosity, or so I thought. I visited from the police. On the fourth day after the death of my wife, I had an unexpected visit from the police. They searched the house. However, I was certain that they would never find my hiding place. I was not at all worried. The police made me go with them as they searched. They looked in the cellar 4 times, but they found nothing. My heart beat quite calmly. I was the victory of innocence. At last, the police seemed quite satisfied with their share and were about to leave. I was so pleased with myself that I had to say something. Gentlemen, I said at last, as the police were about to go up the cellar step. I am delighted that your suspicions are now at the rest. By the way, gentlemen, this is a well-built house. For some reason, I had a stupid desire to boast, and hardly knew what I was saying. It was very strongly built. Look at these walls, and they show how strong the walls were. I, I lifted the stick I was holding, and bet the wall behind which I had buried my wife. A voice from behind the wall. As soon as I had done that, a voice cried out from behind that wall. At first it sounded like the crying of a child, but gradually it grew into a terrible scream. The sound was not human. I was horrified and stomped back against to the opposite wall. The police stood completely still on the stairs, with looks of horror and amazement on their face. One moment they were quite still, the next they were tearing that well down. The body of my wife became visible almost immediately, and sitting in front of her dead body was that horrible one-eyed cat. It was the cat that had caused me to murder my wife, and the cat that had now made that murder known to the police. The cat will cause me to be hanged as I had Pluto. I had put the cat into the wall with my wife.